Well, hello everyone and welcome to Deep Dive, the podcast that goes beyond the surface to help you live out your faith in the everyday. And I'm John, I'm the pastor here at Murrelbark Baptist Church, and today we're beginning a short Easter series, given that we're releasing this during Easter week. Now, across these two episodes, we'll walk through a couple of events of Easter that correspond with our sermons and our services here at church. And instead of starting at the garden or in the upper room, we're actually going to open up the book of Hebrews, because in the first few verses, those opening verses of Hebrews, we get a panoramic view of Easter. Not just a moment in time, but God's final word, the turning point there of all history. So wherever you're joining me from, whether it's on your commute, on your walk, or whether you are just catching a breather, welcome. It's great to have you with me. Let's dive in. Now, I wonder, have you ever had someone say something to you that has changed everything? It might have been a hard truth. It might have been an unexpected grace, I suppose. A sentence, words that hit you like a thunderclap, or even a quiet word that has stayed with you for years. It might be a parent, might be a friend, might be a teacher, might even be a preacher. But words have power, don't they? They land in us. They can hit us for six, and they often shape us, and they may even consume us and live rent-free in our heads for years, even unbeknownst to the person who said them. Well, the book of Hebrews begins with these words. In the past, God spoke to our ancestors through the prophets at many times and in various ways, but in these last days, he has spoken to us by his Son. Well, what is revealed to us there? Well, it is revealed to us that God is not silent. He's not far off. He's not waiting for us to get it together before revealing who he is to us. God speaks. And in Jesus, God has spoken his final word. Jesus, his Son, he has spoken his final word. And so Hebrews invites us to see Jesus here as the hinge of history. In the past, God spoke through the prophets, through dreams and whispers, through fire and cloud, through direct voice of Isaiah, Elijah, Moses, all of it good. All of it good. But none of it complete. They were simply echoes, and here Jesus is the voice. And the writer continues, whom he appointed heir of all things, and through whom also he made the universe. Jesus is not just another messenger. In fact, he's a king. He's the heir of all things. He's the maker of all things. And so Jesus rides into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday, a Sunday we've just celebrated and spoken to and spoken of and about on our Sunday service. When he rides into Jerusalem, it's not just as a symbolic act, it's the arrival of God's final word. Wrapped in humility as he rides in on a donkey and enters into the city not to conquer, but to restore God's people once again to God. There's a key phrase here in the Hebrews verses here, which is important for us not to skip by. And these words, in these last days. That's not some apocalyptic countdown. It's the author's way of saying everything has changed. Since Jesus' arrival, we are living in the final chapter of God's story of redemption, of God's story of restoration. And so it's important to realize that in these last days, they don't begin with destruction, but they do begin with restoration. And this arrival of Jesus marks the beginning of a new era. The King has come, the final word has been spoken, the restoration has begun. And that restoration, of course, is not just cosmic or political, but it's also personal. It reaches down into our very lives as well. Think about an old piece of furniture, worn down, faded, might be cracked in a few places. Someone could throw it out, put it on hard rubbish, or maybe someone could come and take the time to restore it. This is what a couple near our house do. They rescue things from hard rubbish, breathe life back into them. I can see them often as they take patience and care and obviously have a vision for what they're doing. And in the end, you see the stunning result of these almost new and usable pieces of furniture. And that's what Jesus does. That's what Jesus has come to do. He comes to restore. He doesn't come to discard or to patch over, but he actually comes to fully restore what sin has marred. And it begins with a word. God has spoken, and the word that he has spoken is Jesus. So Jesus speaks peace to the anxious. He speaks healing to the broken. He speaks forgiveness to the guilty. He speaks life to the weary. He speaks truth to you and to me. As we walk through Easter week this year, I wonder what words you are listening to. Of course, there's a lot of voices out there. Voices of fear, shame, cynicism, distraction. Voices that tell you you're not enough. Voices that tell you that you have to prove your worth. Voices that, tell you that your past disqualifies you from a future with God. Takes away our hope. Often it's our very own words telling ourselves this too, isn't it? But Hebrews 1 tells us that God has already spoken, and what he has said is clear. He's spoken to us through his Son. And so that invitation this Easter is simple: to tune your ears to Jesus. Let his word be louder than all the others around, particularly in this election season. Dare I say, there's so many words spoken, often confusing ones and demanding ones, and promises perhaps that it cannot always be fulfilled. But Jesus fulfills all promises, doesn't he? And he has spoken. He has spoken as King Jesus. So we're to trust the one who entered the city then on a donkey, because he came not to condemn, but to restore. And so perhaps I can leave you with the promises of 2 Corinthians chapter 5. If anyone is in Christ, they are a new creation. The old is gone, the new is here, and God was reconciling the world to himself in Christ Jesus. Thank you for joining me today on Deep Dive. Next week we will again reflect as part of our Easter series on what it means that Jesus is now seated in majesty, risen, reigning, restoring all things. But thanks again for joining me, and I shall talk to you next time.